Let me tell you something you might not want to hear. You are not tired. You are not unlucky. You are not stuck. You are comfortable. And comfort is killing you. Every morning you wake up with potential in your lungs and purpose in your heartbeat, and then you roll over and go back to sleep. Not just in your bed, in your life. You keep saying one day I'll start the business. One day I'll write the book. One day I'll get in shape. One day I'll chase the dream. Let me give you the brutal truth. Wake up. Not tomorrow morning. Not next month. Right now, look at your life with brutal honesty. How many dreams have you delayed? How many goals have you quietly buried under the excuse of being realistic? Comfort has wrapped itself around you like a warm blanket, convincing you that staying where you are is safe. But safe is not success. Safe is slow decay. Every day you choose comfort over courage. You trade long-term greatness for short-term ease. And that trade is costing you more than you realize. It's costing you growth, confidence, momentum, and the future you secretly crave. Average doesn't happen by accident. It happens by repetition, repeating weak habits, repeating small thinking, repeating excuses so often they start to sound like truth. You don't wake up one day and decide to be mediocre. You drift there. One postponed workout, one avoided risk, one silent moment when you should have spoken up. Drifting is dangerous because it feels harmless. There's no alarm, no flashing warning light, just slow stagnation. And the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to recognize your own potential, staring back at you, waiting for a chance. Let me ask you something serious. If someone shadowed you for a week, studying your routines, your focus, your effort, would they say you're committed to excellence? Or would they say you're interested in it? There's a difference. Interest talks. Commitment acts. Interest shows up when it's convenient. Commitment shows up when it's uncomfortable. You say you want more, but are your daily actions demanding more from you? Success is not built in big dramatic moments. Success is not built in big dramatic moments. It's built in quiet choices made when nobody is watching and nobody is applauding. Comfort will whisper to you every single day. It will tell you to sleep in, to scroll longer, to start tomorrow. It will remind you how tired you are, how busy you are, how unfair life has been. Comfort speaks softening, but it speaks often. Courage, on the other hand, speaks once. It tells you to get up, to try, to risk failure, to step into uncertainty. And because courage doesn't shout repeatedly, most people ignore it. They listen to the louder, constant voice of comfort and slowly build a life that feels manageable. You are not designed to live a manageable life. You were built for expansion. Growth demands friction. Muscles grow by resistance. Minds grow by challenge. Character grows by responsibility. If everything in your life feels easy, predictable, and controlled, you are not growing. You are coasting. And coasting only happens when you're going downhill. Think about the strongest version of yourself. That person doesn't avoid pressure, that person seeks it. Because pressure reveals capacity. Pressure exposes weakness and forces transformation. Without it, you stay exactly where you are. Some of you are waiting to feel motivated before you move. That's the trap. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when conditions are perfect and disappears when things get hard. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It tells you what needs to be done, regardless of emotion. The people you admire are not constantly inspired. They are consistently disciplined. They execute when they're tired. They prepare when they're bored. They focus when they're distracted. They made a decision that their goals matter more than their moods. Look at your circle. Look at your environment. Are the people around you pushing you to grow or helping you justify staying the same? Energy is contagious. Standards are contagious. If you surround yourself with small thinking, you will shrink. If you surround yourself with driven, accountable individuals, you will elevate. But understand this clearly. Changing your circle might feel uncomfortable. It might feel lonely at first. Growth often doesn't, but loneliness in pursuit of greatness is temporary. Regret from wasted potential is permanent. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can walk out of here entertained, inspired for a few hours, then return to the same habits that keep you average. Or you can decide that enough is enough. Decide that comfort no longer controls you. Decide that your standards rise starting today. Not in theory, not in conversation, in action. Through disciplined routines, through bold decisions, through uncomfortable growth, your future is not waiting for perfect conditions. It's waiting for you to step up and demand more from yourself. Every single day, take a moment and point to the person responsible for your life. Not your boss, not your parents, not the economy. You. That reflection in the mirror holds the pen that writes your story. It's uncomfortable to admit, because ownership removes excuses. The moment you accept full responsibility, you lose the luxury of blame. And blame is comforting. Blame allows you to stay the same while convincing yourself it's someone else's fault. But growth begins where excuses end. If you want different results, you must first accept that the current results belong to you and no one else. Your life today is a reflection of your standards, not your wishes. You don't get what you hope for. You get what you tolerate. If you tolerate procrastination, you get delay. If you tolerate laziness, you get weakness. If you tolerate negativity, you get stagnation. Standards are invisible lines you draw for yourself. They determine what you accept, what you reject, and how hard you push. Raise those lines and everything changes. Lower them and everything shrinks. The quality of your life will always rise or fall to match the standards you consistently enforce daily. Ownership is power. When you say it's on me, something shifts internally. You stop waiting. You stop complaining. You start building. Power does not come from control over others. It comes from control over yourself. Your habits, your mindset, your reactions. You cannot control the weather, the traffic, or other people's opinions. But you can control your preparation. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. That's where real power lives. The moment you reclaim that power, you stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the architect of outcomes. Blame feels good in the moment because it protects your ego. It tells you that you're capable, but the world is unfair. It tells you that you would succeed if conditions were better. But while you're protecting your ego, you're weakening your potential. Every time you blame, you give awakening your potential. Every time you blame, you give awakening control. You hand your future to something outside yourself. And what you don't control, you cannot change. Responsibility may feel heavy at first, but it gives you leverage. It gives you the ability to adjust, improve, and move forward with intention and strength. Look at the areas where you feel stew. Check finances, health, career, relationships. Ask yourself hard questions. What habits contributed to this? What decisions led here? What standards did I lower? These questions are not meant to shame you. They are meant to wake you up. Awareness creates opportunity. Once you identify the pattern, you can break it. But you cannot fix what you refuse to face. The mirror doesn't lie. It reflects truth without emotion. And if you're bold enough to face that truth, you gain clarity powerful enough to transform your direction. Raising your standards requires courage because it demands change. It means waking up earlier when you're comfortable sleeping. It means saying no when it's easier to say yes. It means preparing when others are relaxing. It means holding yourself accountable even when nobody else notices. High standards isolate you at first. Not everyone will understand your discipline. Not everyone will support your ambition. But understand this clearly. Average standards create crowded spaces. High standards create rare air. If you want uncommon results, you must adopt uncommon expectations for yourself daily. There is a version of you that operates at a higher level. That version speaks with confidence, acts with urgency, and moves with intention. That version does not negotiate with weakness. It does not entertain excuses. It does not shrink in difficult moments. That version already exists within you, waiting for alignment between your actions and your potential. The gap between who you are and who you could be is filled with daily discipline. Close that gap by raising what you demand from yourself consistently, especially when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable. From this point forward, every challenge becomes a test of ownership. When something goes wrong, resist the urge to point outward. Instead, ask, what can I do better next time? When you fall short, analyze and adjust. When you succeed, raise the bar again. Growth is a continuous decision to take responsibility at deeper levels. The more responsibility you accept, the stronger you become. The stronger you become, the fewer excuses you tolerate. And when excuses disappear, progress accelerates in ways you once believed were impossible for someone like you. You were not born to simply pay bills and pass time. You were born with breath in your lungs and fire in your spirit for a reason. Somewhere along the way, life may have convinced you to shrink your expectations. Maybe you were told to be realistic. Maybe you were told to be realistic. Maybe you were told not to dream too big. But deep down, there is a voice that knows you are capable of more. That voice doesn't disappear. It waits, it nudges, it reminds you that the life you're living now is only a fraction of what's possible. Too many people confuse survival with success. Paying bills is survival. Staying comfortable is survival. Avoiding risk is survival. But you were built for expansion, not maintenance. Expansion requires vision. It requires the willingness to step beyond what is familiar. The moment you decide to reach higher, fear will show up. That fear is not a stop sign, it is proof that you are stretching beyond your current identity. Fear only appears when you approach growth. If you never feel fear, you are probably staying exactly where you've always been. Playing small may protect you from criticism, but it also protects you from greatness. When you downplay your ambition to make others comfortable, you betray your own potential. You silence ideas that could change your life. You hesitate when you should act boldly. You convince yourself that average is acceptable because it's common. But common does not mean fulfilling. There is nothing noble about shrinking to fit into rooms that were never meant to contain you. You dishonor your gi. Fates when you refuse to develop and display them fully. Fully. Inside you are talents that have not yet been refined, skills that have not yet been sharpened, ideas that have not yet been executed. Potential is not enough. Potential unused becomes regret. The world does not reward what you could do. It responds to what you actually do. That means showing up when you don't feel like it. That means practicing when results are invisible. That means learning when progress feels slow. Greatness is not discovered. It is built deliberately through consistent, focused effort applied over time. Look at the areas where you've settled, the job that no longer challenges you, the habits that no longer serve you, the relationships that no longer inspire growth. Settling happens quietly. It starts with small compromises. You tell yourself it's good enough. You tell yourself it's safer this way. But every compromise chips away at your confidence. Every time you ignore your inner calling, you weaken your belief in yourself. Confidence is built by action. When you act in alignment with your higher potential, self-respect increases naturally. You cannot wait for perfect timing to pursue more. Perfect timing is an illusion. Conditions will never align completely. There will always be uncertainty, risk, and doubt. The difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is simple. One group moves despite uncertainty. The other waits for certainty before moving. Growth requires movement first. Clarity comes later. If you demand guarantees before you begin, you will remain exactly where you are, watching others take chances that transform their lives dramatically. There is a stronger version of you that wakes up earlier, focuses deeper, and pushes harder. That version doesn't negotiate with laziness. That version honors commitments even when no one is watching. That version understands that temporary discomfort leads to permanent growth. Every disciplined action strengthens that identity. Every excuse weakens it. You build your future self through repetition. The question is whether you are reinforcing strength or reinforcing comfort. The habits you choose daily are shaping the person you are slowly becoming over time. You owe it to yourself to explore the limits of your capability. Not halfway, not cautiously, fully. Test your discipline, test your resilience, test your courage. Stop measuring yourself against average standards and start measuring yourself against your highest potential. The ceiling you think exists may only be a mental boundary you accepted without question. Push against it, challenge it, expand beyond it. The moment you refuse to settle for less than your best effort, you begin stepping into the life you were always meant to experience. Pressure has a way of revealing what comfort tries to hide. When everything is easy, you don't truly know yourself. You don't know your limits, your resilience, or your depth. But when challenges rise and obstacles block your path, your real character steps forward. Many people misunderstand pressure. They think it is a sign to quit, to retreat, to shrink. In reality, pressure is an invitation. It is life asking you to grow into a stronger version of yourself. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without tension, there is no transformation at all. Think about the moments that shaped you most. They were not the easy seasons. They were not the easy seasons. They were the nights you doubted yourself. The days you felt stretched beyond comfort, the times you were forced to adapt. Struggle refines you. It burns away arrogance, laziness, and fear. It replaces them with humility, discipline, and clarity. When everything is handed to you, growth is shallow. But when you fight for progress, you develop depth. That depth becomes you. Rhine Foundation, and foundations built under pressure do not crumble easily when future storms arrive unexpectedly. Diamonds are not formed in soft environments. They are formed under intense heat and weight. The same principle applies to you. If you want to shine, you must endure the process that shapes brilliance. Complaining about pressure does not remove it. Avoiding pressure does not eliminate it. It only postpones growth. When you lean into difficulty instead of running from it, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to realize that you can survive discomfort. And that realization builds unshakable confidence from within. Adversity exposes weaknesses, but it also highlights strengths you didn't know you possessed. When resources are limited, creativity expands. When support is scarce, independence grows. When results are slow, patience develops. Hard seasons are classrooms. They teach lessons that comfort never could. If you treat every challenge as punishment, you miss the wisdom hidden inside it. But if you treat challenges as preparation, you extract value from pain. Preparation strengthens you for opportunities that require maturity, endurance, and focus at higher levels of responsibility. It is easy to pray for easier circumstances. It is harder to prepare for greater capacity. Yet capacity is what determines how much success you can handle. If you are not strong enough internally, external success will overwhelm you. Pressure builds capacity. It stretches your mindset. It increases your emotional control. It sharpens your decision-making. Without that stretching, you remain small. And small thinking cannot manage big opportunities. Instead of asking for fewer problems, consider developing the strength required to handle larger responsibilities with confidence and wisdom. When pressure hits, your instinct may be to retreat into old habits, distraction, avoidance, excuses. But those responses shrink you. Growth demands a different reaction. It demands focus. It demands discipline. It demands that you stand firm when everything feels uncertain. The moment you choose to stand instead of escape, you build resilience. Resilience is not built in theory. It is built in moments when quitting feels reasonable, but you decide to continue anyway. Each time you push through discomfort, your tolerance for challenge increases steadily. Your current struggle may feel overwhelming, but it is shaping skills you will need later. That difficult project is teaching patience. That financial pressure is teaching resource management. That rejection is teaching persistence. None of it is random. Each obstacle carries a lesson designed to strengthen you. If you quit too soon, you interrupt the process. You step away before the refinement is complete. Growth requires staying power. It requires faith that the pressure you feel today is preparing you for responsibilities you cannot yet see clearly. Strength is not loud. It is developed quietly through repeated endurance. Each challenge you face and overcome adds another layer of confidence beneath the surface. Over time, what once intimidated you becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Pressure stops feeling like an enemy and starts feeling like a signal that you are evolving. When you embrace adversity as part of your design, you stop fearing it. You recognize it as evidence that you are being shaped into someone capable of carrying greater weight with stability and purpose. Success is rarely the result of one dramatic decision. It is usually the outcome of small choices repeated consistently over time. Every day you wake up, you are writing your future through habits. The way you start your morning, the way you manage your time, the way you manage your time, the way you respond to distractions all shape your direction. Discipline is not glamorous. It does not attract applause. It operates quietly in the background of your life. Yet it is the foundation upon which confidence, credibility, and competence are built steadily over time. Many people wait for motivation before they act. They want to feel inspired before they begin. The problem is that feelings are unstable. Some days you will feel driven, other days you will feel tired, distracted, discouraged. If your progress depends on emotion, your progress will be inconsistent. Discipline removes emotion from the equation. It creates structure. It creates routine. It creates automatic behavior aligned with your goals. When you rely on discipline instead of feelings, you maintain forward movement regardless of temporary moods or circumstances. Promises you make to yourself matter deeply. Every time you say you will wake up early and do not, you weaken self-trust. Every time you commit to focus and give in to distraction, you chip away at your credibility with yourself. Confidence is built through kept promises. It grows when your actions match your words. Discipline strengthens that alignment. It transforms intention into evidence. The more evidence you create through consistent action, the stronger your belief in your own capability becomes under pressure and uncertainty. Small habits may seem insignificant in the moment. Skipping one workout feels harmless. Delaying one task feels minor. Choosing distraction once feels acceptable. But habits compound. They accumulate quietly until they define you. Positive habits build strength, clarity, and efficiency. Negative habits build weakness, confusion, and delay. You are not controlled by one decision. You are shaped by patterns. Discipline ensures that your patterns align with your ambitions. Without disciplined structure, your days drift. With it, your days move with direction and intention. Consistency often outperforms intensity. Working extremely hard for 1 week and quitting the next does not create mastery. Sustainable effort creates mastery. Discipline encourages sustainable effort. It teaches you to show up at a level you can maintain. That steady rhythm builds endurance. It builds skill. It builds reliability. Over time, those qualities separate you from those who rely on bursts of energy without structure. The disciplined individual may not appear extraordinary daily, but their accumulated effort becomes undeniable after months and years of persistence. Discipline also protects your focus. In a world full of distractions, the ability to concentrate deeply is rare. Notifications, noise, and constant stimulation compete for your attention. Without disciplined boundaries, your time dissolves into scattered activity. Focused discipline requires intentional limits. It requires saying no to distractions that do not serve your mission. It requires prioritizing tasks that move you forward instead of reacting to everything that demands attention. Guarding your focus is guarding your future because attention determines productivity and productivity determines progress. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, days when fatigue sets in and results seem distant. Those are the moments that matter most. Anyone can work hard when outcomes are visible. Few continue when progress feels slow. Discipline carries you through invisible growth phases. It sustains effort during plateaus. It keeps you building when applause is absent. Those quiet seasons of disciplined consistency often create breakthroughs that appear sudden to others, but were earned gradually through unseen commitment and resilience. The disciplined life is not restrictive. It is liberating. Structure frees mental energy. Routine reduces decision fatigue. Clear standards eliminate negotiation with weakness. When discipline becomes part of your identity, productivity increases naturally. You stop debating whether to act and simply act. You stop bargaining with excuses and execute your plan. That reliability builds momentum. Momentum builds results. Results reinforce discipline. Over time, the cycle strengthens, transforming ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes shaped by deliberate, repeated, focused daily action. You have one life, not two, not a backup version, waiting in case this one doesn't work out. One, and yet many people live as if they have unlimited time. They delay their dreams, postpone difficult conversations, and ignore the goals that stir their hearts. Time feels abundant when you're young and distant when you're comfortable. But every sunrise subtracts 24 hours from your account. You cannot pause it. You cannot store it. You can only spend it. The question is whether you are investing your days wisely or casually throwing them away. What would immediately change? Who would you forgive? What would you attempt? What excuses would suddenly lose power? That urgency you feel in that scenario reveals something important. You already know what matters. You already know what you should prioritize. The difference is not awareness, it is action. When time feels infinite, procrastination feels harmless. But when time feels limited, clarity sharpens. The tragedy is that most people wait for a crisis before they start living intentionally and boldly. Procrastination is a silent thief. It does not shout or demand attention. It whispers that there is always tomorrow. It convinces you that conditions will be better later. Yet later often becomes never. Each postponed effort delays momentum. Each delayed decision weakens koa. Or rage. Momentum thrives on immediacy. When you act quickly on meaningful goals, you create energy. When you hesitate repeatedly, you create doubt. Over time, hesitation becomes habit, and habit shapes identity. The person who constantly delays eventually believes they are incapable of decisive and bold action. Your future self is watching your current choices. The person you will become 5 years from now is being built by what you do today. That future version of you either feels gratitude or disappointment. Gratitude for disappointment, risk, and focus. Disappointment for wasted hours, neglected health, and ignored ambition. It is easy to disconnect from that future identity because it feels distant. But it is forming daily. Every workout completed or skipped, every skill practiced or avoided, every opportunity seized or postponed contributes to that emerging reality. Legacy is not only about fame or wealth. It is about impact. It is about how you use the limited time you are given. Did you grow? Did you serve? Did you challenge yourself beyond comfort? Or did you remain in familiar routines that required little courage? You do not need a massive platform to build meaningful legacy. You need intentional action. The way you treat people, the effort you apply to your craft, and the discipline you show daily all shape the mark you leave behind in subtle but powerful ways. Time does not slow down when you are uncertain. It does not pause when you are afraid. It keeps moving regardless of your readiness. Waiting to feel completely prepared often results in permanent delay. Readiness is built through action, not before it. You gain clarity by starting. You build confidence by trying. The longer you wait, the heavier the first step feels. Action reduces fear. Movement builds momentum. Once you begin, what seemed intimidating becomes manageable. The hardest part is not the journey itself, but the decision to take the first step. Distractions are the modern enemy of meaningful time. Endless scrolling, mindless entertainment, and constant comparison consume hours without creating value. At the end of the day, you may feel busy, but not fulfilled. Busyness is not productivity. True productivity aligns with purpose. It moves you closer to goals that matter deeply. Protecting your time requires boundaries. It requires saying no to what drains you and yes to what develops you. When you guard your hours intentionally, your days gain structure and your progress becomes visible and measurable. One life means every decision carries weight. The risks you avoid and the chances you take both shape. You cannot replay missed years. You cannot reclaim wasted seasons, but you can decide differently now. You can choose to act with urgency instead of hesitation. You can replace distraction with discipline. You can align daily behavior with long-term vision. The clock is not your enemy, but it is not your ally either. It is neutral. What transforms time into achievement is the courage to use it deliberately and consistently. So here's the question. Are you going to keep sleeping through your potential, or are you going to wake up? Wake up to your responsibility. Wake up to your power. Wake up to your calling. Stand up. Draw a line in the sand. D. Decide that from this moment forward, average is no longer acceptable. Decide that excuses no longer have a seat at your table. Decide that fear will not drive your life. Make the call. Send the email. Start the workout. Write the first page. Take the first step. Not tomorrow. Now. Because the life you want is waiting on the other side of one bold decision. Wake up. Take control. And go claim what's yours.